Welcome back to the show. A couple of announcements to make before I start this video. First of all, I'm going to be something on in the next month or so, just real life stuff. So the videos will be a bit more sporadic next month. They'll be sort of like this, with no background, just a basic light. I'll do them when I can, but I've got something on, so it won't be as regular. Hopefully it won't be a month before I can come back and do them at a normal pace. It's just I wouldn't like to have to feel like I need to do them when I'm really not going to be in the mood to do a lot of them. So I'd rather just do the little ones if I feel like it, because that's just something on I need to deal with. So that's the announcement. There'll be less videos for the next month or so, probably. Hopefully it'll just be a month. Okay, that's the announcement over. I made some more, but I'm putting this video up today on a Sunday, and there's a very short week of videos, so this won't happen like overnight. There's a week of videos coming beyond this. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, normal, but after that it'll be just sporadic. Okay, the video I'm doing today is about, this is a little bit of the last for a while as well of the German documentary stuff. It's going to be the German concentration camp factual survey and Night Will Fall. Even if I wasn't taking a break, I've been taking a break from this because I've hit a wall now with this. Like, I was going to do a Till Terminus, I would still do it, but it'll be a few months. I've hit the wall of I just can't do any more of these just now. They're just too depressing, too disturbing, so I went out with the most depressing and disturbing of a lot though. I think that's the one that finished me. Right, German concentration camps factual survey is a film that's basically, it's a documentary about the Holocaust made in 1945 as the war was ending. This was footage shot by the British Army and the Russian Army and the American Army as they liberated the concentration camps, and this is the footage they found. Most of the footage in these ones come from the British and the Russians. The American colour footage went back to America, but this one was shot the express purpose of showing it to the Germans so they could see what the army had done in their name, so there would be less repercussions against the occupying force, because at that point Britain, Russia and America were occupying Germany after Germany lost the war. This is before it split up into 3 zones and no one was quite sure what was going to happen. So this one was getting done really fast, but by the time it was almost finished, it was deemed not to be usable, and basically Billy Wilder got some of the footage and put a 20-minute version of it out that was a bit more Americanised and but apparently a lot more tacky. But I haven't seen that version. It's on the Night Will Fall disc, but I haven't watched it yet. So the film was cancelled, even though they shot all this footage. They put it all together, spent months putting it together. It was taking a long time because of so much footage and so much horror and how to balance it. Cindy Bernstein, who was the person in charge of it, had written Alfred Hitchcock because he'd worked for him before. And Hitchcock was a supervising producer or supervising director who would come in and help shape it. So he came up with things like having maps to show how close these camps were to population areas, and just general things how to organise the footage into something that could get the information across, because the footage itself was so strong, but you had to organise it so that people could get the full. They would be horrified by what they were seeing, but they needed to have something else to actually get information across. So you could build information, expand on it, then build it more, and get the idea of the horror as the documentary expands. So Hitchcock was in doing some stuff with it, but he left at a certain point once it was cancelled, and Bernstein ended up leaving as well and went to America to work with Hitchcock. So the film was abandoned. It was still, the footage was still used in Nuremberg as evidence. The footage was used in Nuremberg as evidence against the different camp commandants and all that, to prove who had been involved, who had not been involved, or everyone had been involved, but the detailed involvement of different people. So Night Will Fall tells a story of how it was made and why it was never shown, and the actual film itself is the actual footage, and it's been restored. they used the notes and the script to restore the rest of it. There was one, the final 10 minutes weren't finished, so they actually used the notes from the script to actually put that last 10 minutes together. So it's now been completed and released in a 3-disc set by the BFI. I have lots of extras and lots of information about the film. Now, the film was made before all the details were available, so you get a booklet with it as well as some extras. So you get Blu-ray and DVD, so you have two different versions so you can actually see it properly. But Night Will Fall itself will tell you all about why it was made, the people who made it. So you interviewed people who shot the footage and how disturbed they were by the footage, even though they were shooting it, and where certain footage came from, and like how Russian footage was involved in it as well, and how they did reports of the death camps like the year before from Russia, but because Russia had such a... they didn't believe Russia. I mean, Russia's human rights record wasn't great to start with. I mean, the only people who are bigger mass murderers than the Nazis in the 20th century are the communists, you know. So so they weren't quite believing until the Western world got a view of the carnage themselves, and it was pretty horrific. So the footage itself is stuff you would never believe. I mean, if you watch Showa, you get the description of what happened, but you never get the footage. And this time you get the footage and you get the general overview. But you see people who are dead and they've all been starved to death. It's like just mass bodies getting shoved in mass graves. The Germans try to burn the bodies. The Germans are burn the bodies and use the bodies as to fertilise food, using the ashes to create chemicals to fertilise food. That's what they were doing. And they also tried to get rid of all the bodies before the occupied force came, but they never got rid of evidence. People got caught, and you saw that people, like women, members of the SS, had joined voluntarily to help, you know, do the mass murders. And also you saw all this stuff, you see all this evidence of like all these shoes, like 800,000 shoes, pairs of shoes just stacked up. You had a stack of hair that had been cut from the people to be used by the Germans for their economy. Just this massive spectacles. And they said, I think, 1 out of 10 people wear glasses. And this mass of spectacles, this pile of spectacles, like many people does that tell you were killed. So the booklet itself gives you lots of information, also gives you facts about the numbers. So these are the numbers I'll read out. So first of all, there were 6 million Jews killed by the Nazis in concentration camps. There was Soviet prisoner of wars was 3 million. Non-Jewish Poles was 1.8 million killed. People with disabilities, 250,000. Roma and Sinti, 220,000. You have repeat offenders and antisocials, 70,000. Jehovah's Witnesses, 1,900, and homosexual men, 5,000. That's the numbers of people killed by the Nazis. At that point, in the point of this documentary, they weren't going with the idea it was all Jews. They were saying about the variety of people that had been killed before there was 2 reasons. One was there was a variety, but it was mainly Jews, but they were trying to show the range. The scale of it all had actually been confronted yet. It was also, what do you do with refugees who survived? Because a lot of them wanted to come to Britain, and the British government had its own problem, anti-Semitism. They didn't want them. The Americans didn't want them. They didn't want to stay in Europe because Europe was the cesspool who had tried to murder them for the last 10 years. So what did you do with them? They ended up going to Palestine and all those conflicts they followed. So actually, I mean, the Night Will Fall looks into that, the politics involved and what happened after the war. Like, they were trying to not have the Germans fall into the trap of been based in hate. So they tried to rebuild Germany as best they could, but split up so this would never happen again. So this thing was meant to make Germans confront what they'd done, but they felt they didn't need to do that anymore because it was just obvious what had happened. So it was very tricky. But what do you do with this footage? And obviously they did what happens in most political situations, the wrong thing. They took the instead of just finishing the documentary and then finding a way to release it properly over the next year or two and carefully, they just stopped making it, even though it was dire need to be made. And eventually, 60 years later, they finally did the reconstruction. There's also some amazingly disturbing stuff, like the Hitchcock touch of showing where the concentration camps were tied to the areas of Germany and Poland. It makes it really disturbing because you see the information, you see the footage of all these people from one camp, and then you start to see these little dots of all the other camps throughout Germany and Poland and all these other areas the Germans occupied in France. Then they show the different areas that were close by to these camps and how they were profiteering from them, how they were saying, no, we didn't know, and they're using the camera to say, yeah, they did know. And there's all this stuff going on, and the whole idea of showing the scale of it by starting with one thing, then pulling out and showing the dots to show how this was repeated en masse. So it wasn't just Auschwitz and the few famous places that Sobibor. No, this was all over the place. There's lots of small camps doing the same thing, and that's just horrific, and it shows how the Germans had to know. There's no way they didn't know. So all of that makes it just very disturbing. It's only an hour and 15 minutes, but it feels so much longer because you want the end and you're going to crawl and watching it. Everything is like, ugh. And there's a constant footage of people who are starving to death, who have typhoid, and all these diseases because the camps were never cleaned. It was like people were dying in their own excrement. It was just horrible. Just people, bodies left en masse. Just the diseases were going everywhere, and it was like a lot of people were just dying even when the occupiers came and saved a lot of people. There were still people just died because they were so weak. And there's just all these bodies just look like bone and bits of flesh on it because they're just nearly dead, but they've been starved to death for so long. It just tells you how horrific it was. This is the final nail in the coffin of Germany of saying something they didn't know. Of course they knew. Everyone knew. There were smells from out the factories for years, and apparently it just smelled horrible because it was just a horrible situation. There's no way they couldn't know. And everyone was profiteering off the industry of making these people work. So it's one of those films that is just horrific. And Night Will Fall shows footage of that, but also shows the effect of the film on the people who were making it. So it's the both of them. I would suggest watch them both together because they're a pair, really, and they're very, very disturbing. Again, this is the one that put me off. Like, I'm not watching that stuff for a while. That's it. I've hit the wall. There's just no way I can go back to this for a while. It's just too disturbing. But I'm really glad I did this. I mean, I think it's important to go back every so often and see the horrors of humanity, and not have delusions about it. Just don't go overboard with it. And this is, I think this and Shore, basically are the two you need to see. The other one, the other Shore films that Claude Lanzmann made afterwards that expand upon that, and Night Will Fall and So on the Pity, they're all important, but I think the Factual Survey and Shore itself are the two kind of central ones you need to see. The important things, they're the ones with the real depth to them. It's just horrifying to watch. Well, again, I want to say I hope you enjoyed this. You probably didn't enjoy this. This is pretty brutal to make and just to watch. But again, yeah, so after this, there's some videos this week. They're a bit lighter in tone generally, because I've been going a bit light recently. But I'll be back probably in a month or so. I'm just real life things are in the way just now. But I'll be back soon in the normal schedule, but the next month it'll be sporadic. And it'll be like not meant, no real show-offy stuff, because it'll just be like quick videos of little things here or there. But I'll see you soon, and I hope you have a good week. And yeah, but these films are available on BFI though. I mean, I would definitely say take the time. They're both an hour and 15 minutes long, so they're disturbing, but you can get through them quickly. But it's important to see them. So, hope I can leave you with that. It is important to put the money down and see them, because they're just vital things to know about what humanity can do to itself, and how evil racism is. I mean, I'm making this just after those Christchurch massacres of the guy killing all those Muslims in the mosque, and it just shows you just how we keep doing this horrific stuff. This racism is just, and racism comes from every race. Every race has their racist elements. I mean, it's not just white people. That's every race has this in their past, and it's just so stupid and horrific, and just judging people on the faith or on the skin colour. It's just so dumb. It's not, I mean, beyond horrific things it leads to, was shown by the Nazis, it's also just stupid. It's just moronic. I mean, if you actually think that way, you are literally stupid. You really are. And it just shows you how this stupid thought can expand into something utterly evil and how horrific it is. So, I'm leaving it there before I start ranting about something else in the news. Okay, but I'll be back sporadically over the next month, but I'll be out before I go back to this normal schedule. Okay, right, bye.